Hello and welcome to this practice today. So I'm shifted away from the class format for this video, and instead I wanted to talk a little bit about a particular movement that we use in our yoga practice. So that movement is the pelvic tilt. You can hear this often referred to as tucking your tailbone or flattening your lower back into the ground during a general yoga practice with loads of different people. Now, it took me a while to figure out what tucking your tailbone actually meant. So I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a talk on what the movement is, how we can connect with the movement, and then there'll be a little bit of a chance for us to practice different shapes where that movement can change the dynamic of the pose. So the first thing I want to say about this movement is that it's never in isolation, right? When you start to move the pelvis, the lower back will move with it. You'll have movement in the legs as well, dependent on the shape that you're in. So you may bend a leg to assist with the tilt of the pelvis. You may straighten a leg to take it in the opposite direction. So one thing I want to say, in no way is this video here to fix or change anything. Instead, what I'm trying to do is to just offer you an alternative experience in poses, right? You'll often hear fix an anterior pelvic tilt, fix a posterior pelvic tilt. But realistically, within our yoga practice, we want to just be experiencing different variations of shapes. So we'll start on the ground and we'll do a little bit of work down there, and then we'll kind of just move through different poses where it often shows up. For some of this practice today, you may want to pause, right? So when I'm talking through something, you may hear it and go, okay, right, I want to spend a little bit longer here. Pause the video, take your time, explore it, find it in your body, and then press play to continue. So that's the plan for this video, and I'm hoping it will just help you experience pelvic tilt in loads of different shapes, whether it's standing, lying down, whether it's in a tabletop position. And the final thing I want to add before we get into this is that sometimes we can make a movement or a shape in one position. So for example, lying on our back or on our hands and knees, but we may not be able to make that position when we're standing. And that comes down to a lot of the maps that we have of the body in the brain. And that's normal. There'll be parts where it feels really easy and other parts where it feels a little bit clunky, which is why I wanted to take this time to explore it, to work together on it, and then kind of just throw in a couple of different shapes that you may see it in. Okay, so you can watch this first part or you can join me straight away. I'm going to be starting lying down on my back with the legs bent and the soles of the feet on the ground. This is what I refer to as constructive rest position. It's a great place to start to tap into this pelvic tilt. So let's think about it from a couple of different ways. And I'll refer to tucking your tailbone just because it's language that you'll come across often within a yoga practice. It's not necessarily something that I use that often. So to begin with, I'm going to take my hand under the lower back. And like I said, you can join me for this one straight away, or you can just watch for a moment. With the hand under the lower back, I'm going to start to think about the relationship between the prominent bony parts of the hip at the front of the hip and the base of the rib. And from here, as I inhale, I'm going to let the abdomen expand. And I'm going to see whether I can just create a little bit of a lift in that lower back to free up a bit of space between lower back and the hand. And then as I exhale, that abdomen's naturally going to draw backwards. And from there, I can press that lower back into the hand. Now you'll notice from here that the prominent bony parts of the hips move towards the ribs. Okay, so this is what is tucking your tailbone. So as we inhale, we create space. Rib to hip, we create space there too, right? We're creating space between the lower back and the hand and between the ribs and the hip. As we exhale and we press down into that lower back, the hips are going to draw towards the ribs. So if you want to join me now, come down to constructive rest position. Slide that hand under the lower back. And we can just work on this together. We'll just go for like 5 or 6 with the hand in position, and then we'll take it out. Basically, the hand is acting as feedback, and it generally gets a lot easier once the hand is out of the way. So let's go together. Just take note of ribs and hips. As you inhale, create space between the lower back and the hand. And notice the relationship between ribs and hip. As we exhale, press lower back down and take check of rib-hip connection. Let's inhale to lift. This is arching of the spine. As we exhale, let's round the spine, and this is where we tuck that tailbone. Ribs travel towards the hip, hip travels towards the ribs. Let's go for 3 or 4 more. Moving at your own pace. Go. And the next time you press that lower back to the ground, just release to neutral and let's slide the hand out. We're going to continue this movement now without the hand placed. And you can always bring it back in if that helps you. So as we inhale, we create that extra arch space between lower back and the ground. And the hips are just going to travel away from the ribs. As we exhale, we reverse it, ribs to hips. Press lower back down into the ground. Just moving at your own pace. You can always use the hands to really start to notice this movement. As we use the mind's eye, it can feel quite small, but when we place the hands, it can start to feel quite large. Inhaling to arch, create space, abdomen expands. Exhaling to round through that lower back. We'll do 2 more. Use that breath for this. Wonderful. And then from here, just release and relax into neutral. You can always take a little sway of the knees if you would like to. Okay, so from here, I want us to look at our bridge pose. So bridge pose is a place where this may show up quite often. So arms are down by the side. Okay, really get to a place where the arms can press down into the mat. And then from here, we're just going to take 1 round of a pelvic tilt. So as we inhale, we're going to create that space in the lower back. Abdomen expands. We stretch from ribs to hip. As we exhale and press that lower back down, we tuck the tailbone or we draw ribs towards the hips. Now this is the point where people will say tuck the tailbone and then hold that as you lift the hips up into the air, into your bridge pose. As you inhale, bring yourself back down. As the body touches down, create that space, create that extra arch, that expansion in the abdomen before you breathe out again. Press lower back down, tuck the tailbone, and then lift the hips up in towards the ceiling. Now from here, you can stay with this. If you're connecting well with this movement, this idea of drawing the ribs towards the hips before lifting into your bridge, then excellent, stay with it. Come in and out, use the breath. Whenever we're drawing ribs towards the hips, think of using the exhale because it naturally starts to activate the core muscles, the corset of muscles around the trunk of the body. Now, if you're thinking, I can't quite find this, join me in trying it out in a bridge pose, staying lifted. So just lift yourself up halfway, right? And you can always take hands to the hips to assist with this one. I want you to think about the space between ribs and hips, okay? So expand that space, create extra space there. And then draw the hips towards the ribs and see how that feels. All whilst we're kind of 50% of the way into our bridge pose. You can stay on the ground for this if it's easier. You can lower down. I just want you to find this. And often what people want you to do is keep those ribs drawing towards the hips as we lift up. So now from here, as we do this, you may start to notice that the glutes start to activate naturally. As you lift as high as you can, let's pause here for 2 more breaths. And then guide the body back down. Place the body all the way back down onto the ground, and you can just take a little rock through the knees. So hopefully you're starting to connect to this movement. It's just our pelvic tilt. It shows up in so many different poses. Okay, so from here, I want us to transition to a tabletop shape. So you can roll over onto the front and press yourself up, or you can come through seated and spin yourself around. So one place that you'll see this movement all the time is in your cat and cow pose. So once you've found that tabletop, we're going to isolate all the movement down into the pelvis to begin with before we start to draw the movement up the spine. So once again, thinking of the hips and the ribs. As we breathe in, remember what we did when we were lying on our back. We were arching the spine, creating space in the abdomen, allowing it to expand, which then draws the ribs and the hips away from one another. As you exhale, draw them together. That's it. So, just to confirm, when the hips travel towards the ribs, that is when we're tucking that tailbone. Now, if you want to, you can start to let the cat-cow expand out, and you can start to get shoulder blades and neck involved. So as we inhale, the prominent parts of the hips move away from the ribs. Shoulder blades draw together. We look forward. As we breathe out, we draw the hips towards the ribs. We pull the shoulder blades apart and we look to the knees. Move between these 2 points. Think about it as hips, ribs, shoulder blades, head. Excellent. We'll go for 2 more. And then release into your neutral. Now, once again, you may want to glance at the screen a little bit before you come into this with me, but we're going to go into downward facing dog. So there's a couple of different things that can happen here. For some of us that are really flexible, I'm going to show you how that may look and why you may be told to tuck your tailbone to assist with it. So in our downward facing dog, we're generally looking for length in the spine. You can kind of do whatever with the legs. Some of us love to stretch out the legs, but really we're looking for length in the spine, pressing into the hands. I always think there's better ways to stretch the back of the legs than a downward facing dog. So from here, I'm going to tuck the toes under, press the bum back, right? Really start to fix those hands into the mat, pressing into the base of the thumb, the knuckles, the fingertips. As I breathe in, I'm going to send that bum up to the ceiling. As I breathe out, I'm just going to shift that bum back ever so slightly. Now, for those that are super flexible, what you may find is that head and chest go really low, bum's pointed up, okay? And this is where we're creating space between the ribs and the hips. Therefore, when someone says tuck your tailbone, we're going to try and draw the 2 areas together to lengthen out through the spine. Now, do you remember how I said that the pelvis rarely moves in isolation? So from here, you may need to bend the legs a little bit more. So as we straighten them, we may be able to do this a bit more, or we may round forward, okay? But as we bend the legs, it's going to allow us to start to bring a bit more movement into the pelvis, okay? So let me bring myself back down. You may have already been up there trying this with me, but we're all going to come into this together now. So we'll come into our downward facing dog, and I really just want you to think about ribs and hips. When you're up there, it's always difficult when you're in downward facing dog, right? Because I never want you to be having to look at a screen or having to look away from basically your feet, because that's where you naturally are. So just kind of take a moment, listen to what's being suggested rather than trying to look at the screen. All we're thinking about is hips, ribs. Can we draw them together? Can we move them away? And for some of us, it may feel better to go in one direction or the other, right? Which is why the kind of standard default of tuck the tailbone may not work for everyone. It's also really hard when you're in a different orientation. It may work on the ground or standing, but once you're upside down with your bum up in the air, it kind of all gets a bit chaotic. So all we're thinking, hips, ribs. Okay, so spreading through those fingers, pressing into the thumbs, knuckles, fingertips, send that bum back. Breathe in, send the bum up to the ceiling. Breathe out, push that bum to the back of the mat and bend those legs. Okay, from here, let's see if we can bring in a bit of that pelvic tilt. So as we inhale, hips and ribs travel away from one another. As we exhale, we draw them towards one another. Inhale away from each other. Exhale towards one another. So take 2 more. That's it. And then find the sweet spot in the middle where this feels good in your body. And just hold it there, 3 breaths. Hold it. And then as you next exhale, lower those knees down. And from here, I want you to walk the hands back, come up into your high kneeling position. We're going to take the right foot, we're going to step the right foot forward. You can always take some padding under that left knee. Okay, so once again, it's another place where you may hear people say, scoop the pelvis under, right? And that's to assist with finding length in the thigh, the front of the thigh of the back leg. Okay. So let's continue with our experience. So pelvis, hips, ribs, you've got this by now, okay? As we inhale, they can travel away from one another. So this is where we can bring that little bit of a back bend in, right? Maybe the hips shift forward, trying to stretch out the tissue in the front of the body, okay? As you next exhale, draw the ribs down towards the hips. See how that feels. Hopefully, you're feeling something in the front of this thigh. Inhale, create space. Exhale, draw those 2 points together. Let's do 3 more. You can always place hands to assist with this. I do it without even thinking. Perfect. Let's pause here. Now, if you want to join me, you can tuck the back toes under, press down into both the feet, bring yourself up into your high lunge. Okay. So this is one of my favorites because this really starts to focus on the legs, particularly that back leg. So from here, pull those ribs away from the hips, right? That leg's going to lengthen. Now, as you draw the ribs down towards the hip, you may start to feel a little bend in that back leg to really scoop the pelvis under to draw those hips up. Inhale, move them away from one another. Exhale, bring them together. Let's do 3 more. You can always place one hand on the hip, one hand on the opposite rib, and just feel the relationship in action. Remember, let the back leg bend. Last one. Right, from here, guide that back knee down. Untuck the toe, shift the weight back, come back to your knee, and we're going to go through this on the other side. So this time, left foot steps forward. Find yourself in your low lunge. So left knee's roughly over the ankle. Now from here, you can go one hand on the hip, one hand on the rib. All I want you to do is move those 2 parts away from one another as you breathe in. As you breathe out, draw them together. How does it feel? It's going to feel different for all of us. Two more. Last one. Right, pause there. Now, if you want to join me, tuck those back toes under, press through both the feet, lift yourself up into that high lunge. Right, once again, hand on the hip, hand on the rib. Let that back leg bend with it. Inhale, draw the 2 points apart. Exhale, this is the tucking of the tailbone now. Draw the 2 points together. Back leg bends slightly. Now there's space for all of these. They all create a different sensation. Last one. Pause. Now take that back foot, step it up. Give those legs a little shake. If you were joining me for low lunge only, start to bring yourself up to stand it. And actually our last little pose we're going to practice this in is going to be our mountain pose. So we're just standing up, okay? So let's go through this together. We're going to go hands free now, really see how much we've connected to this area. So arms are down by the side, palms are forward. All I want you to do as you breathe in, those 2 points, create space. That bum's going to pop out now. As you exhale, draw the 2 areas together. Hopefully you feel a bit of glute engagement going on. Inhale, create space. Exhale, draw the 2 points together. 2 more. Last one. And then just relax into your neutral. Take 3 breaths there. There we go. So, with that being said, there's never a perfect place to be. It's about you exploring it in your body, finding what's right for you. Some of us, we prefer to have a bit of space between the ribs and the hips, and that helps to create that space. Other times we need to draw the 2 areas together to create a little bit of engagement. And as you move through not just yoga, but other disciplines, it may be that you connect to these things in different ways. Okay, they show up in different formats. You hear people say different words to describe the movement. But I've always found the easiest way to look at it is how close the prominent bony part of the hip is towards the ribs. So try it out. Next time you're in class, whether it's yoga, Pilates, your strength training, just see how it feels to make little adjustments, only tiny ones. We did quite big movements, but you can just do a little shift in the pelvis and see how it feels. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.